So we just completed the second example in Graphing Inequalities video, and I wanted to show you all how you can do this in your calculator. Now, this method is probably the easiest method, but if you're someone who really likes to use the calculator, I want to show you how you can do that. So it's optional to do this, but it's definitely a great resource, especially to check your work, make sure that your graph is right. So here's what we do. Instead of just going to y equals, we need to quit out of that, so second quit, and we're going to go to apps. Now in your apps, remember we used PolySmelt 2 to solve systems of equations. We want to go to inequals. So we're going to select inequals, hit enter, and we're going to select continue because mine was currently running, so yours might say something a little different. Let's see what that might say. Inequals. I'm going to quit out of mine. So you can quit. Let's see what happens when we go back. Inequals. Okay, so we press any key to continue. All right, so it's going to take us here now. So notice we have an equal sign, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So we'll be able to plot that. We can plot our lines as inequalities now. So in this equation, in this system, we have two inequalities. They have to be in y equals mx plus b form though. So you know how we did that work to convert it so that y was less than 1/3 x plus 7? That's good. You have to keep it that way. All right. And this is how we're going to plot it. So y is less than. So you see how my arrow is hovering over the equal sign? We don't want it to be y equals. We want it to be y is less than. So here's my less than sign. I don't just click window. This is what we have to do. It's kind of weird. You click alpha, and then if I want less than, I select that gray button underneath less than. So notice a couple things changed. I have y1 is less than, and then this thing on the left changed. Look at how it's different from the other symbols. The other symbols are just lines because they represent linear equations. They're just lines, or they represent any function. But now our line, not only does it have shading underneath it, but it's also dotted or dashed, meaning, think about why we would have that. If it's less than, we would be drawing a dashed line on our paper. Our calculator is going to draw a dashed line for us on the calculator. So now we can fill in the rest. 1/3 x, so let's put our 1/3 in parentheses, x plus 7. Okay, so this should match what we have on our paper. Y is less than 1/3 x plus 7. Now we'll go down and we'll do the second inequality. For this inequality, y is greater than or equal to negative plus 4. So I can't leave it as equal sign. I'm going to do greater than or equal to, but remember I have to hit alpha greater than or equal to. And notice not only did it change our inequality, it changed our shading. It's going to be a solid line with shading above because it's greater than. So we have negative, let me do this, negative x plus 4. All right, so let's go ahead and see what our graph looks like. So we'll click graph. Look at that, it's graphing, shading, shading, more shading. Oh, I have an error. This is going to happen to you a lot. So notice what it says, error syntax. That means that something is wrong with the way that I typed it. So I can either quit out or I can select go to. So it's going to go to my error. My error is in the second y equals. You notice how I was supposed to put negative x? I put minus x. I used the subtraction button instead of the button. So make sure you make it negative x, not minus x. That's a syntax error. It's always going to give you an error message. So now it says negative x plus 4. Let's check our graph now. And remember, our graph should look something like this. It might be a little skewed because our windows might be slightly different. So check it out. So does our graph on our calculator match our graph on our paper? Yeah, it's slightly stretched a little bit, but yeah, it matches. It's got our double overlapping piece right here. Now, you might be wondering, well, I can see it, but how do I check a point? It's easier to see a point on our grid. Here's how we check a point, okay? You see this button trace? We're going to do second trace to get to calc, and then we're going to calculate a value, okay? Let's say we wanted to check the point 4, 5. okay? So the 0.45 has an x value of 4. So you just put 4. You don't even have to put the 5. Hit enter. And let's see. So when x equals 4, it's taken me to x equals 4, and then I can use these arrow buttons to go up and down. And let's see where it's taking me. Hang on a second. So this is actually taking me, I have y equals 0, because that's this line right here. So it's going to actually jump from the bottom line to the top line. So I can see that when x is 4, y is 0 at this point, and y is 8.3 repeating up here. So in case we can't tell, if we're looking for 4, 5, 5 would be in between 0, 8. So 5 would definitely, yes, be in this area. If you want to be able to see your grid a little bit better, there's one way you can change the shading. So if I want to select shades, remember how we had to do alpha and then that to select greater than or equal to? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do alpha y equals, and you can change the shading of the inequality, intersection, the union, and the original shading. I selected union. So I can kind of see this a little bit better, so you can see the points. You could definitely find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that a little bit easier than the way it was shaded before. So that's just one way you can shade it. You can change the shading. Let's see what it does. Inequality, intersection. So this is going to shade just the overlapping part because that's where it intersects. The union that we looked at before shaded everything. So that's pretty cool. So that was, again, that was second y equals, and that's our inequality intersection. That's how you can see exactly where it's overlapping, just the overlapping. So this part is actually the solution to the inequality. So I hope that helps. You don't have to use the calculator to graph. I just wanted to give you that opportunity to use that as a resource if you want to check your work or to do the work, to graph it on your calculator instead of by hand.